Hello, my name is Dick Olson. I'm the head of marketing for Watchful Software, and I would like to welcome you to our webcast today. I will be discussing the importance of making a business case for data classification in your organization, and I will discuss how important it is for you as IT security professionals to continue the process of building the best possible security mix that you can to protect the risk of security breaches in your company and to protect your management and, frankly, your job. In terms of the agenda, there are some house rules. You're being muted, as you know. And I'll go through that in a moment. Then I'll get into the business context and challenges and talk about why data classification is key, talk about how data classification is evolving, talk about some of the first-generation user-driven tools, and then the second-generation tools that are more user-friendly, and then get into use case on policy-driven roles and talk about how RightsWATCH, which is the Watchful software product that we're going to be focusing on today. We'll set up an audit trail, and then there'll be some questions and answers and a little bit of a wrap-up. So let's move along. As I mentioned, I am the marketing lead for Watchful Software, and I'm responsible for brand positioning and messaging. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll have access to it on demand at watchfulsoftware.com. You can enter your questions at any time using the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll try to get back to you, or I will email you after the session. In terms of the business context and challenges, securing data and company secrets, as everyone knows, has become increasingly difficult. Originally, it was thought that by securing the company perimeter, this would keep things safe. But with bring your own device to the party and cloud technology, securing data has become increasingly difficult. And really, not a day goes by without some major data breach being reported to the public and the press. Panama Papers and the hack of the Democratic National Committee are just two of the most recent stories to be made public. And as we know that data leaks are widespread throughout most industries and government. In fact, 40% of enterprises are expected to have a significant data breach this year. It's really become not a matter of when you're going to be hacked, but if you're going to be hacked, but when you are going to be hacked. And data breaches really damage reputations, for your organization, which has a financial implication on the book value of the company. On your customers, it's embarrassing. It causes them to lose trust in who you are and who they want to do business with. And it damages the reputation of employees. There have been instances where CEOs and C-level people have been terminated over these breaches because they felt that they were not doing enough to make it happen. And as technology IT professionals, you all are really on the front lines and are vulnerable when these things happen. And everybody likes to produce a culprit, and you don't want to lose your job over these things. And corporate security policies are often complex and difficult to understand. Employees really don't get it. I was talking to a corporate vice president of a major Fortune 500 U.S.-based company recently, and I asked him what kinds of security policies were in position to protect their data, and he said, gee, I really don't know, but I'm sure there's something, but I wouldn't have any idea how to use it. I assume it's somebody else's job, but I don't think it's my job. And this guy is involved with customer contracts in the hundreds of millions of dollars. and he's been with the organization 15 years, and he really had no sense, which is, probably not surprising, but it's a little alarming with what's going on these days. So once your corporate security policies are developed, securing data as it is created through classification is really the most effective step in securing your data. This works at the point of creation. It's driven by your corporate policies, and it determines who can see the data before it is shared, and it protects it wherever it travels. So securing data through classification is really the first line of defense, versus the old style of protecting the perimeter, because it travels wherever the data goes. So data classification is policy driven, and it gets into the who, what, how, when, and where. What data is truly sensitive. Is it payroll through human resources? Is it social security numbers, credit card numbers, personal data, health information? Who should have access to this information? There are certain things that can be public. There are certain things that can be open to any employee. There are certain things that need to be restricted. And there are certain times, like with financial information, if you're a public company, you want to protect that data until after it's released. And, it's limited to a very few, select few. And then how is the data to be handled? Who has access to it? Where can it travel? Can it be printed? Can it not be printed? Can it be emailed? Can it be sent to a home device? And then how should the classification change? So that gets into, issues after a financial report is released to the public. That becomes, general public information, and it gets into policy lifecycle management. And then where should the data be protected? Emails, mobile, desktops, and everything. And then if it's shared with somebody, how can it be protected? So data classification tools are really evolving to become more effective. As data security professionals, it's your responsibility to continually upgrade your solutions. And this is an ongoing, continual process, because technology is changing and devices are changing. So it needs to be evolving on an ongoing basis. And really, most employees, as I mentioned, do not care about protecting data. They think it's somebody else's job. It's time-consuming, it's complicated, and it's difficult to comply with the policies if you know what they are. So the first generation data classification products tended to be defined as user-driven, and it put a lot of responsibility on the part of the employee to understand how to use these things and apply them on an ongoing basis. It requires the employee to understand your corporate security policies, and really, a lot of these policies are hundreds of pages, and they need to understand the importance of it. And when they go to classify a piece of content, be it an email, an architectural drawing, an engineering drawing, future plans, marketing plans, any of the many data points that come up. It requires the user to make judgment calls, and this can run into an awful lot of problems because it is cumbersome. And oftentimes, if people don't fully understand the policies, they might make the wrong call, or they might not fill out anything. With some of these first-generation products, there are a lot of drop-down questions that are time-consuming to fill out. they get into, it interrupts the flow and the speed of the execution. And if you take a look at the number of documents that people handle over the course of a day or create, emails and the like, it becomes really burdensome, and it slows the whole process down. It also results in a large number of classification errors, which live indefinitely with these documents. And as a result, compliance of the corporate policies is incomplete. And we find that a lot of organizations are reporting a fraction of their employees using the these customer user-driven data classification products. The result is they continue to see data breaches, even though they have deployed some kind of a classification tool. It's just not being used, and it's not solving the issue. There are second-generation products out there. RightsWATCH is this type of product. It's a user-friendly, automated system that works to classify your data in compliance with your security guidelines. It takes your corporate classification guidelines and digitizes them to automate designation of data. So if you have a corporate classification policy that is 1,000 pages, it takes this information and distills it down and applies the rules across every piece of information that's being created, be it an email, be it a document or plans or that sort of thing. And it picks up the certain language in there, and it properly classifies the information when it is created, so it can be handled appropriately. This offers a real advantage because it streamlines and simplifies the user experience and relieves the end user from the need to understand and apply the corporate policies. So it makes your existing security infrastructure work better, and it allows you to really improve compliance so that it's universal across your organization. And importantly, it works on new files as they're created, and it also goes back and classifies all your older files so that they are protected and you don't have to go through a painstaking forensic evaluation of what's been going on. So RightsWATCH reads the data as it is being created by your users. It applies your classification policies and assigns the correct classification real time and eliminates errors. And importantly, if you find that there are certain people in your organization that need to override a certain classification, they can be enabled to override this situation. So emails are automatically classified based on to whom the email is being sent, which content is written in the email, and which files are attached to it. So this becomes an all-inclusive program that your data is being classified based on your corporate classification policies, and it protects things. With a move towards more government regulation, like the European Union General Data Protection Regulation, which is a hot topic right now, all companies are going to be held to a very high standard, and the penalties for data breaches is going to be very significant. If you are not current with your systems, this can provide a real penalty as you move forward, and it's being taken very, very, very seriously. So RightsWatch Global Protector dynamically scans the legacy data files and automatically classifies all files in that repository, enforcing the policy rules, so that not only your current data but any past data that you may have in your system is becoming increasingly defended. And this is through the Global Protector Service. Also, a user is prevented from saving a document to an unauthorized location and or with unauthorized content. So RightsWATCH blocks the file from being saved and shows the user why it is being blocked. With many companies outsourcing work to suppliers, this becomes increasingly important, and it provides a real advantage. And these are the warning and block rules. RightsWATCH provides a comprehensive audit trail and documents and traces any unauthorized access to confidential data. So if there is a breach, you can find out where that breach is and see who is using it, and provides real-time information detailing who is doing what, when, and how with classified information. And it really enables an organization to provide regulatory compliance and be up to code. When most people are finding this sort of thing to be complicated, it takes the workload out of it. The RightsWATCH automated systems represent a significant upgrade to earlier user-driven products. Data classification is in compliance with corporate protocols at the point of creation, which is the essential first step in the plan to secure data. Trying to do it after the fact is impractical. Early tools were so complicated they failed to gain user support, and usage proved minimal. We were talking with a company recently, and they have a couple of 100,000 employees, and they have one of the early generation products, and they found that only one person was using it in compliance with the guidelines, as it was so complex. RightsWATCH automated policy product streamlines the user experience. It doesn't interrupt anything. It doesn't slow their their workflow down. And for that fellow I spoke with, who was a corporate vice president doing his contracts, he would not need to divert his attention to having to learn his corporate policies and apply them. They would be automatically deployed to protect the confidential data in his contracts. RightsWATCH improves your existing security infrastructure and compliance. So this is really something that can be added to your existing security programs, so that you are not having to add additional. You're not having to scrap anything. This is just an add-on, and it's an enhancement, and it's a necessary upgrade to protect your data these days. It's interesting. A lot of organizations take a look at risk and compliance and security as an expense. And Gartner released a report recently where they talk about this area, and risk, compliance, and security is currently scheduled to be the #1 investment for 2017, and it's going to put it ahead of business intelligence and big data management for the first time, as companies recognize the necessity to protect this data and prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. As a result, the appropriate budget allocation is being put forward for the 2017 planning cycle, and it will become a bigger issue, year over year, as companies are looking to comply, but they're also looking to work with user-friendly systems that are not user-driven, so that they can get people to embrace this technology and use it. Software is only useful when it's put into practice, and if people don't use it and it's shelved, you can, if you're having to go through and justify your plan, you can say, yes, I had something in possession, but if you know that it's not being utilized effectively, then it's a Band-Aid, and it's really not useful from a business standpoint. You really need something which is going to streamline and simplify the user experience. So that's a key piece of information to think about as you move forward with your planning. So that essentially is the Reader's Digest version of RightsWATCH and how it can help you, and it provides a business case why it makes sense to invest in this area and invest with tools that are current. And I am just looking to see if there are any questions at this point in time. And I see there really are not. So unless there is anything that anybody wants to enter at this point in time, I will sign off and return some time to your business day. Thank you very much.